So to cook this lemon meringue pie, you will need to follow the recipe card as well as this video. For the pastry, you're going to need 225 grams of plain flour, 25 grams of icing, 100 grams of real butter, 1 egg yolk and 2 tablespoons of water. I'm following the recipe in this video for a 28cm pie dish. If you haven't got a pie dish, then you can always use the top of a casserole dish or a baking tin. So once you've preheated your oven to 200 degrees, measure out your plain flour and your icing sugar, and with clean hands give them a mix. And to add in our butter, please try and make sure you're using real butter and not margarine, as the properties of butter mean it's more solid at room temperature, so it will lead to having a firmer pastry. I'm going to crack in the yolk of 1 large egg. Please keep the white, because we will need that for the meringue on top. Nothing goes to waste in this recipe. So what I'm doing is I'm tipping the egg yolk from one side of the shell to the other, and as I tip it between the halves, the egg white is dripping through. So this is now going to go in there, and I'm going to save that for the meringue later. Don't forget to wash your hands after handling the eggshell. So we're now going to mix in the egg yolk. And once this is mixed in, we're then going to add our tablespoons of cold water to help bind this into a pastry. I would recommend that you add the 2 tablespoons of water one at a time, as you might not need both. And if you need more than that, then don't worry. Hold your dish over the pastry to see it's the right size. With a piece of excess pastry, use it to push the pastry into the folds of the flan dish. With a vegetable knife, trim the edges to make sure that they look neat, and then, if there are any patches, fill these in with some excess pastry glued on with a dab of water. Now use a fork to prick the base so that there are no air bubbles whilst it's cooking. Put some scrambled up parchment into the case and weigh it down with some rice or some beans so that no air can rise on the bake. You're going to bake this at 200 degrees for 10 minutes and then for another 5 minutes without the baking parchment. Then allow to cool. Here are the ingredients we now need for the filling. 4 egg yolks, 4 lemons, 75 grams of corn flour and a pint, 600 millilitres of cold water. Grate the zest off all your lemons. Make sure you only grate the yellow. Now squeeze all those lemons to get the juice. Pour this in to the lemon zest. Then mix with your 75 grams of corn flour. Stir it slowly to make sure it's well mixed together. Bring your pint of cold water to the boil, and once it's boiling, add in your mixed corn flour, lemon juice and zest. Then with a balloon whisk, stir it until it thickens as a sauce. Now it's time to mix 175 grams of caster sugar into the 4 egg yolks. Blend this together so it's a thick yellow paste, and then it's going to go into the pan with the rest of the ingredients. Bring the mixture back to the boil. The texture should look smooth and the colour should look glossy. Once this is done, you can take it off the heat and allow the mixture to cool. You should also have your pastry dish out of the oven by now, and that should be cooling on the side as well. Now it's time to make the meringue. You need a grease-free bowl and you need your caster sugar, which is 225 grams. Whisk the 4 egg whites without any caster sugar first until they are foamed. This is aeration, which is denaturing the protein cells in the eggs. Once they have formed a foam, you can start adding the caster sugar a little bit at a time. Make sure your electric whisk is on full speed. You can stop this after 10 minutes and when the meringue is starting to form peaks and not fall down. Now you know you've made a great meringue with the head test. You can hold it over your head, and if it stays in the bowl, then you know you've done a great job. Now lower the temperature of the oven to 150 degrees. Put the lemon curd filling into your pie dish. And make sure it is evenly spread by using a spatula. Now your meringue is ready to be piped on top. Now if you don't have a piping bag and a nozzle, you can spoon it evenly over and form peaks with a knife. Make sure if you do have a piping bag that the piping bag is totally grease-free. Try and make sure you get the full amount of meringue sat on top of the lemon custard filling. Now this needs to go in the oven for an hour at 150 degrees. If you followed the recipe for a 23 centimetre pie dish, then the cooking time is 45 minutes. Once it's out of the oven, it can be served with cream or ice cream, or just on its own. And this is a great high-level skill recipe.